if we change this around, just to kind of see where the difference is, because we don't define God that way. We define God as our Father.
But this is my thing. When you're saying that it depends on how we're looking at this, if we're taking this position of the greatest conceivable being, I'm arguing that biblically, that's how Yahweh presents himself. Like he literally says, point to something in creation. What is like me? There's nothing like me. Nothing as great as me. Nothing as high as me. He's literally saying he's the greatest conceivable being and even is beyond what is conceivable, right? So when we see what Yahweh is saying and how he's introducing himself and expressing himself, he is introducing himself as the greatest conceivable being while at the same time being relational. And so for you guys to, I'm saying you guys, but
No, you're good. You're good.
you people to for you to bridge that and say, well, or say that that's possibly an inaccurate view of Yahweh and how we're viewing God. Obviously, from my point of view, it's completely unbiblical.
Oh yeah,
but you're saying there can be an argument made for that.
I would agree in the sense of that. I think that there obviously can be and is a biblical case made for that interpretation of the text, and that's what the text is saying.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I don't fault people to be like, oh, it's so obvious. I think that, again, and it isn't to debate right now, but I think that there is also a case that can be made to talk about God as your Father in a far more narrow or a closeness that's where you're not, like, the basic Latter-day Saint view is that God is the Father of your spirit. Right? And so this is a huge deal because it says you're not a creature. Huge. You aren't a creation of his. You are his child. And that says something about your potential. See, one of the other things within Latter-day Saint theology is the entire project. It isn't about like, you need to worship the right God, otherwise he'll like be upset with you. And maybe that's a bit of a straw man, but it's ours is about this idea of you have a particular nature that at its deepest core is connected to divinity itself. And the Lord created this plan in order for you to reach the highest potential that you have in you that you don't even know you have. And so the whole project isn't one of worship, although worship is important and we worship the person who's leading us to our divine potential, like that's kind of part of the process. Yeah. But that it is about an eternal development of soul building that can only be achieved through a mortal experience that can take us to another level of being.
I see.
And so that's sort of the way that because it isn't just like these statements about God are kind of in isolation. They have bearing on what this means to us.
Okay.
So.
All right, so last area here. You talked about the Most High. And you're saying that the Father is the Most High. So obviously you see every other Elohim is lesser than the Father. And now is that in ontology? Is that in what is that?
I would say in degrees of glory and intelligence and power and all of that.
Got it.
He will always be above all of those. So if you think about it, you know, what are angels? Angels are something like, in our view, they'd be something like people who have not yet been born or people who have lived and died, who are ministering to people, and that's why like your relatives and stuff are almost like, in a sense, like a guardian angel. We don't believe in guardian angels per se, but we do believe that our ancestors are far closer to us than we realize. But all of these things, when we talk about angels or we talk about bad spirits and evil sort of beings, these aren't some other creature that's out there, but they are fallen people that have evil and darkness inside of them, and they also are on the other side of the veil and want to corrupt and cause problems. Okay. So everything, so much of it So much of it comes down to this idea of a different species of being, and it really gets wild and weird when you say, hey, all of these people or all of these beings, they're all the same species, just at different types of glory.
Okay. So when you say that the Father is the Most High, He's the greatest, like He's most powerful, most knowledgeable, everything. He's higher than every power. You have statements in the Scripture that talks about Jesus being exalted, like Yahweh is exalted. He sits on high next to the Father. He is above every power and every glory and every principality. Why don't you see Jesus as being as high as the Father when He sits on high with the Father?
And when you and that is actually a very good question and a very good issue to bring up. One thing that a lot of this, it's like we come from it at a totally different paradigm. So, and there are different people that have different theories about this.